Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you've ever felt completely drained trying to just think your way into a better reality, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're breaking down the fascinating biological reasons why traditional manifestation techniques might literally be burning you out. And more importantly, we're exploring a totally new paradigm called somatic manifestation. It's all about moving your body out of survival mode and into a state of deep physiological stillness. So let's kick things off with a pretty crucial question. Why does forcing positive thoughts, obsessively scripting, or aggressively visualizing your goals usually leave you feeling tight, hypervigilant, and just totally exhausted? You know that feeling, right? Like you're aggressively smiling while internally screaming? We're constantly taught that if we just push harder and think more positively, our desires will magically materialize. But for so many of us, that relentless mental effort just breeds deep anxiety. To figure out why, we have to look past the mind and dive straight into the nervous system. Here's how we're going to break this all down today. We'll start with the positivity backfire, then move into the biology of survival. After that, we'll look at the spiritual bypassing trap, why safety has to come before manifestation, and finally, we'll wrap up with 10 somatic regulation practices you can start using right away. All right, let's jump straight into our first topic, the positivity backfire, and why the whole fake-it-till-you-make-it mentality completely fails the body. Traditional manifestation methods rely heavily on top-down, cognitive forcing. It's all about trying to control reality purely through your mind, which, honestly, is a lot like trying to drive with the parking brake on. Somatic manifestation, on the other hand, is a grounded, bottom-up approach. It starts right there in the physical body, relying on your nervous system, your breath, and your emotions to create genuine internal safety. It's not about forcing an outcome. It's about softening so you can actually receive, aligning your biology first. The affective neuroscience behind this is wild. When you force a high-vibration affirmation, like repeating, "I am abundant" or "I am worthy," when your body firmly does not believe it, you create what's called an intolerable cognitive discrepancy. Your brain immediately registers this massive mismatch as a literal threat. So instead of drawing in abundance, you're actively triggering your body's defensive recoil. Which brings us to part 2, the biology of survival. This is exactly where protection can actually become a prison. See, when you try to manifest from a place of stress or forceful desperation, you can actually trigger an amygdala hijack. The amygdala is your brain's alarm system, and here's the kicker. It literally cannot distinguish between a real physical predator, a passive-aggressive email from your boss, or the intense internal pressure of staring at your own vision board. It reacts to all of them as life-or-death threats, flooding your body with stress hormones and sending you straight into fight, flight, or freeze. Dr. James Doughty summarizes this perfectly. He points out that the brain is a survival organ first. Its primary job isn't to make you happy, it is to keep you alive. Your nervous system will always prioritize protection over possibility. And this matters immensely, because if your body doesn't feel safe, it will actively and quietly sabotage your most beautiful visions just to avoid the perceived risk of change. This totally aligns with the polyvagal theory, developed by Dr. Stephen Porges back in 1994. The theory essentially shows us how our autonomic nervous system states literally drive our behavior. When we're dysregulated, our brain's only priority is threat detection. In that state, your subconscious completely blocks receiving, it shuts down creativity, and it resists change to maintain what it perceives as safety. You literally cannot manifest from a dysregulated state. And this leads us to a massive pitfall. Section 3. The spiritual bypassing trap. Because the truth is, you can't just think your way out of a survival response. Spiritual bypassing is a term coined by Buddhist psychologist John Welwood in 1984. It describes this incredibly common tendency to use spiritual ideas, like strict positive thinking or standard manifestation techniques, to sidestep or avoid dealing with unresolved emotional issues, attachment challenges, or trauma. It's basically slapping a high-vibe Band-Aid over a dysregulated nervous system instead of doing the actual foundational work to heal. As we know from somatic experiencing developed by Peter A. Levine, and the famous concept that the body keeps the score, trauma and stress live physically in the autonomic nervous system. You simply cannot fix this with top-down cognitive thinking alone. We have to rely on bottom-up processing. That means directing our attention toward our internal physical sensations, our interoception, to actually resolve and release that trapped survival energy. So, what's the alternative? Section 4. Safety before manifestation. The body really is the ultimate gatekeeper. How do we actually signal that safety? Well, we start by realizing that compassion isn't just some nice, fluffy emotion. It's a biological state. When you meet your own internal resistance and fear with genuine compassion instead of pressure, you literally downshift your nervous system. You restore coherence between your heart, your brain, and your body, signaling to your biology that the threat has passed and it's finally safe to dream. This creates a totally new order of manifestation called the Somatic Sequence. Notice that visualizing and taking action are not at the top of the list anymore. First, you absolutely must establish biological safety. You literally ask, does my body feel safe wanting this? Then you regulate. Only after your nervous system is calm do you tap into your desire, set your intention, and finally take aligned action without any of that forceful striving. Safety always has to lead the way. Okay, let's get into the practical stuff. Section 5, 10 Somatic Regulation Practices. These are authentic ways to manifest from a place of regulation instead of frantic bypassing. We have an incredibly powerful toolkit of bottom-up somatic techniques to play with here. For instance, just 30 seconds of vagal nerve humming directly signals safety to your brain. Or, if you're in a high-intensity moment of panic, a quick cold water reset or some bilateral tapping can literally shock the system out of an amygdala hijack. And then we have practices like pendulation, womb breathing, somatic journaling, or using scent anchors like rose or sandalwood. These literally train your body to hold the frequency of safety over time. We also have manifestation baths, gentle swaying or dancing, and self-oiling rituals for deep physical connection. Now, as you apply these techniques, it's super important to understand what happens next. You'll likely experience what somatic experiencing calls discharge. This is a literal physiological release. As you regulate the activation in your body, you might suddenly burst into tears, feel a huge rush of physical warmth, take a deep, spontaneous breath, or even notice some unconscious shaking or movement. If this happens, it is fantastic. It's literal proof that your autonomic nervous system is releasing that trapped charge and coming back down to its calm, safe baseline. So, if you take nothing else away from this explainer, let it be this. You do not need to hustle your way into alignment. You don't need to mentally strong-arm the universe into yielding to your demands. Your body is the altar. You simply need to soften your physical being, regulate your nervous system, and just allow yourself to become a safe vessel for the things you desire. I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to reflect on today. Instead of continually asking yourself why you can't manifest your goals or beating yourself up for not working hard enough, ask yourself this: what part of you needs to feel safe before you can finally receive? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today.